Well, hello, everybody. Hey, Bobby. Gosh, I'm sorry. One of those days I lost my train of thought.
Right.
I had to read your name. I couldn't even think of it. That's how bad it is this week. I'm still tired from the weekend, doing too much work at the house.
Well, I was gonna say you always have some kind of project lately, huh?
Well, I just try and get back into everything where it should be, so I can use it the way it needs to be used.
Yeah, I know it's hard living in a construction zone, huh?
It's the worst. Yeah. And I broke George over the weekend too. He must have stepped on something while we were walking, and he got to a point where he wouldn't walk home.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he got to the back to the school and he just stopped. Marsha stayed with him.
Yeah.
It's like he was overheated or whatever, but no, I think he stepped on something. He's just poor kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like limping now.
Yeah.
You wanted to go, buddy. Yeah. Anyway, it was not that big of a deal. It was that was Sunday. It wasn't that hot, Oh well, one day he'll be good by this weekend and we'll break him again.
Yeah.
There's not a lot going on right now. I mean, we've been waiting for all the numbers to come in and PPI and CPI, and I don't think it's really going to make a big change this week. It's the May 10th that everybody's worried about, or I should not worried about, waiting for. May 10th is where we should see a major change in inflation.
Yeah.
Even though this administration is still spending money and trying to do stuff that's making it go higher.
Yeah. I just wish that someone would say, just stop spending. Let's just go ahead and let this cycle. Well, I mean, the market is constantly manipulated anyway by the Fed, right? So if we truly let a free market run, it would run its course if we had a hiccup in it, But almost the hiccups keep getting put into it.
Yeah, well, if you keep throwing money in the market, people are going to keep spending it.
Yeah.
And that's our problem. And that's why we're going to actually, it's not this administration's problem anyway. It was Trump who did it all.
I was going to say, yeah, get in line, man. They've all done bad stuff.
It's always the last person's fault. Right. Everybody's fault. It's always theirs fault, Yeah, I don't know. But right now, I mean, the biggest problem we have right now is we have such a pent up demand of buyers that they're waiting. And, we're already, before the shared appreciation program showed up, we already were getting, 15 to 20 offers on homes, sometimes just 5, but that's still more than you need.
Yeah.
Right. And to get on the market, and then next thing you know, there's an offer on it. And that shared appreciation program just added 20 more offers that people are trying to get in and fight over these lower priced homes,
Yeah.
Because even though that went up to $1 million and, that went to 726, 200 in our area, right? Because it was conventional, right? You could go up to that, or you can go high balance. People didn't, look at that. It's like, I can get 20% for a $26,000 home as long as I can afford it with my $155,000 income.
Yeah.
Right. I have no cars payments, no other debt.
Yeah. That's ideal, right?
Right. They could have afforded it.
Yeah. So, before we started recording, you were asking me about open houses, and I actually had one scheduled for this last weekend. And the house was listed at 459. It was over on Janine Way, which is kind of over by Costco, and 5 offers on it. So no need for me to do an open house because it had plenty of traffic and plenty of offers. Yeah.
Well, I think it's going to be like that going forward.
Yeah.
There is such a huge, I keep saying, pent up demand. People they're just waiting. And now that they see rates are going to continue to go down, there's no, I better wait, to get in the thing. And it's just a lot of places we just wait, they've been waiting, but now is the time to get in as soon as something gets on the market. Last week, I think I said it, we normally do 450 some thousand homes a year in California that are sold. And we did in 2022, 250 some thousand. That's almost half. I know it's not exactly half, but it's just, think about that. And this year we're going to be we're at 46% less listings this year than we were last year.
Yeah.
So does that mean we're only going to sell 175,000 homes this year?
Well, that means, as a buyer, you really got to set yourself apart. So the more you can improve your credit, like you always talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anything you can do on your end to make your offer more appealing to the seller is going to be the way you get your offer accepted going forward.
And I'm not trying to push my book, but any way you can get educated on knowing the process and understanding how we look at home, the process and how it is, and understand that process so you don't get upset about it, because it's going to be a process, especially when we have more and more people come out going, I need to buy now. And now we go from 5 to 10 regular offers because we don't have this other program anymore. You really need to, like you said, know how to fix your credit so you get the highest FICO score, so you can do everything. Understand that there's certain things that will work right now that won't work in 10 months from now or 9 months from now.
Another thing that I would give advice for like buyers that just entering the market is like, put on your thick skin, because it is so rare in this market to get your first offer accepted. So if you don't get that offer accepted, even though it's your dream home, rip off the Band-Aid.
It's not your dream home.
Forget about it.
Your dream home is that home you end with.
Yeah,
that's how that works.
But that's the way people look at it.
I know, but people don't.
This house so
right,
bad.
but people don't understand that they lose out on that first one or the second one, but the one they get is the right home for them.
Yeah, no, I agree.
There's occasionally there've been one person out of every 1,000 that's like, this isn't the house I thought it was. Well, you know what? Go there at nighttime. Go there on the weekends. Go there during the day when people are supposed to be at work. See if that's the neighborhood that you want to live in.
Yeah.
Don't just show up there because there's 20 people waiting to get in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's what's going to happen. And until these builders start building more and more houses, we're going to have this problem.
Well, the other thing I was going to say too, right, is people buy based on emotion, they try to justify it, right?
That people always buy on emotion, then justify it.
And it's like, you got to really think about this as an investment, right? Like, is this wise? Is this something I want to live in for a long time? And if so, be willing to pay for it, because with the shortage of inventory, we're beating that dead horse. But there's a lot of people that want very few goods. So you're going to have to pay more than what market value is, and we're seeing appraisal gaps, right?
No, I only saw it because people thought that one I talked about on Tuesday, because they, for some reason, in a market that with the house values were not appreciating, somebody thought their house appreciated $70,000.
That's what they like to think. They like to believe that, right?
Yeah, because they put in some concrete.
Yeah. Well, and like I had,
unless you add in square footage, it's not going to make a difference.
I had an appraisal come in a little bit low, and if it had been on the other side of Roselle, then it would have been okay, right? But it came in like $6,000 low, and so we're starting to see some of that. It'd been a long time since we saw appraisals not come in.
Well, because they're pushing. Sellers were adding all the closing costs to their value, right? That's what they were doing. So that's what you ran into, is when you add, I'll give you $20,000 towards closing costs or buy your rate down. Well, that had to come from somewhere, and we were lucky that it was absorbed. We could have had a lot more appraisals not come in doing that.
Yeah.
And now if you look at some of the appraisals, and if it says FHA or VA down the bottom, they talk about closing costs added, or that it could have been, that's what's pushed the value up. Doesn't mean that's really the way it is. They're assuming that.
Yeah.
Unless they call the agent and ask them, which they can.
But I've had some folks say, what, I absolutely refuse to pay over whatever the appraised value is for a home, right? And it's like,
I'm not laughing at them, or I'm laughing because that's how I deal with stress, I guess. And I've been there many times where people said, I don't want the highest rate and the most costs. Right? Yeah. Nobody ever says that to me. So same thing.
Yeah. But I've seen people blow up deals over a few $1,000s. And if you're first time home buyer, just understand you don't want to go into this with emotion, right? You got to try and keep your game face on as much as possible.
Right.
And if you got to pay a little bit more, is it worth it? Because you're going to be in the house that you're wanting, right? It's going to appreciate. You're going to make that money back eventually.
Yeah. In a few months, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
It's going to be, the value will be there. Once you close on the house that you paid over for, it's now worth what you just paid for it. Because that's what it shows on the market. Sold for this dollar amount, which you just paid for it. So now it's worth it.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that. Well, so what you want is you want to get 20% lower so that you just lowered the value of your house.
Yeah, true. Right?
No, I want it for this value, but 20% lower. It doesn't work that way. Whatever it closes for is now the new value.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I was talking to an agent a couple weeks ago, and he's like, he met with this seller who wanted to sell his house at a premium, and he wanted to buy a house at a discount. Right. And he said, he's like, okay,
haven't you had them too?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But the way he said this was great, man. I was like, I'm going to use this in the future. He's like, okay, great. He's like, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to sell your house right now. He's like, and then in like 7 to 10 years from now, you're going to buy another house, but you're going to rent in the meantime. How's that sound? The guy's like, no, I don't want to do that. He's like, okay, then you need to pay a fair value for the next house.
Yeah, but rent for 7 to 10 years and the value is going to be so much more. He's never going to get into a house, basically.
But it's like, if we get a premium for a house we sell now, we're just simply hand that off to the next, next seller.
And you're getting you're going to get a premium and you're going to pay a premium.
Yeah.
So it's the wash.
It's a wash. So don't feel like you're losing out or anything.
You're not. But people think they are. And that was, I think, a real question is, in today's market, if you have a house to sell, how should you sell it and rent it back, or should you do a contingent sell?
Yeah. So
here's a softball.
Yeah. Right. Go ahead and sell it and rent it back.
Yeah.
That way you can write a non-contingent offer, because contingent offers are going to be hard again to get accepted.
Right. And you could do a, buy before sell program, but it's just easier if you just sell the house and rent it back for 60 days. You'll find that house in the 60 days. I know, and people are nervous, but you can still extend it, even though they say the person has to be moving. Things happened, right? It wasn't set up that way from the beginning. Things happen as long as you keep document of them. That's okay. Because I had a guy who he bought a condo and there was a renter in it, and the landlord was supposed to get him out, but then they couldn't get him out because they didn't do the notification right and all that stuff. And then he's like, "Don't worry about it. We'll just close on it." I told him, "Don't close on it." It was FHA. He's like, "Oh, I want to close on it." Okay, so we closed on it. A year later, he finally got in there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So all right. So I just set somebody up going, I don't want to do that now. I don't want to buy it and rent it back. Well, if you're going to have sometimes situations happen, just like sometimes people lose their down payment because they have it wired to the wrong place, right? Doesn't mean everybody else should stop buying and stop wiring. Doesn't mean that. Just make sure everything's right. Everything's okay before you do it.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're a seller and you're selling your house and you have a good amount of equity, and now you can write a non-contingent offer and be able to bid over, you're not going to have a hard time getting an offer accepted.
Right. And before long, we're going to have a lot of waterfront property here locally with the water coming down. I don't know. Has the water gone over the 132 yet?
I don't know. But
it was pretty high out there the last time when I went through there, and we're going to be we're going to be warm coming in this weekend. So I think a lot more, it's going to be like 58 up there. That means it's melting.
Oh yeah. Everything's going to come down at once.
Yeah. It's going to be, it was supposed to be, if we had a cooler going in, we're going warmer right now than we should be during this period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, built, waterfront property pretty soon.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Yeah. And that's what they're saying. There is some issues with a bubble with houses that are around areas that are collapsing and flooding. This is through the United States, because there's a lot of houses on the coast that are falling into the ocean because of stuff that's going on. And it always does. People live on those cliffs and they build on those cliffs. They fall on those cliffs.
I was going to say, going back to real estate terms, accretion.
I don't know.
I forget. That's right. When you lose soil.
Probably
because of erosion.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just eroding, it's falling big time. And I didn't realize they had pools on a lot of those. It's like, how did you build that pool?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
well, they actually have to drill down so far and put concrete columns in for the house and other things now. And they probably had to do the same thing for the pool. But I saw some pictures. I'm going, that thing's going next,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, foolish man builds his house on the sand, right?
I don't know. All of California sand.
Yeah.
Like we're a desert.
But I mean, we're going back to scripture, right? A wise man builds his house on the rock.
I don't know.
Sounds like sound advice to me.
But I built it on where I built it, there was rocks. They're just falling in the ocean now.
Yeah. Yeah. Sandstone. I don't know. I guess it's technically a rock, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Just they can afford it. Most of these people who have those houses there can afford to rebuild.
Yeah.
They don't have to bring in a lot of dirt and the question is, what do they do? There used to be a house here. Not anymore.
Yeah, no kidding.
Just be careful out there. We're going to have some flooding, I'm sure. I'm not guaranteeing it, but just be careful being around the rivers. They're going to be moving big time over the next few months.
Yeah.
There's a stream by our cabin up there, and it's usually a stream. It's as big as the studio, right? But a lot, it's going to be way bigger than that when we go there, because it's just going to be flowing.
Yeah. Well, every day I drive past Dry Creek, which hasn't been dry, for 6 months.
Right. Wait, it's going to get, hey, that's Dry Creek River.
Yeah, it is a river now. Yeah. And it's been one. And I do think about that, because it only has about probably 2 or 3 more feet to rise before it's going to start causing some issues for those homeowners.
Right. And it's not, this is the reason why we need more dams and higher dams. But let's not get political.
Okay.
We'll do that on the radio show this weekend.
All right.
Everybody, make it a great day. Thanks for being here, Bobby.
Thanks, Ed.